I'm just thinking about the future and the past and how these things relate to golden ages and dark ages. So I think I'm right in saying that, at various times in history, people have considered the past to be a golden age. And at other times in history, people have considered the future to be a golden age that we're moving towards. And when people consider the past a golden age, they often think that they're heading towards a dark age. That the good is all behind them and they're heading towards the darkness. And conversely, when people think that they're heading towards a kind of golden future, then the dark ages are behind them. And I think you kind of see that in, certainly in Western history, in the history of the Enlightenment, in the history of the modern world, modernism and so on. I mean, that's a trajectory which definitely places it traces time really as progress from the Dark Ages, that period of medieval history that's sometimes called the Dark Ages, out of that darkness towards the light of the Enlightenment light of a future golden age, with the promise of, with progress being the thing that would drive us towards that, technological progress, social progress, that kind of thing. But in other stories, in other histories, I think, I can't think of an example, but I know there have been examples in history, as I say, as the golden age being behind them. The time of the gods, when gods walked the earth, when the example of the Christian mythology, I guess, would be an example of that, wouldn't it? The golden age was the time in the garden, and we are stardust, we are golden, we've got to get ourselves back to the garden, that idea, because in the garden we were golden, but unfortunately we had this fall, and it's a fall towards the dark. Possibly, with redemption by Jesus, but either way, without that, or possibly even with that, you're falling towards the darkness of the future. It's a movement from the past, a past which was fantastic, towards a future which is bleak, possibly. And I think you even see that in kind of evolutionary stories, non-mythological evolutionary stories, where the past, our evolutionary past, our past as simpler creatures, our past as creatures when we're closer to nature, close to all this stuff, or our more remote past, when we were creatures which didn't have sentience, or possibly didn't have the capacity to move around, when we were just vegetation like the grass around here, or perhaps when we were even simpler than that, perhaps when we were just chemistry, when we hadn't even got to biology yet, or maybe even when we were almost nothing. Some people would see that as the golden age, and this fall forward into the complexity and the fall forward into the future of multicellular life, of mobile life, of life which can think for itself, of life which has sentience and the capacity to feel things and the capacity to think things, as being a kind of move towards a darkness, a complex darkness of problems, but a darkness nonetheless. I might even want to return to the golden age of simplicity and insentience and absence, really. Anyhow, I suppose others might do something different. Others might see the past as being horrible, and the ascent out of that Stygian darkness of single cellular life and towards sentience and towards increasing different, more complex versions of consciousness as being the move towards the golden light of the future. I don't know.